Hello and welcome back to this second video on the topic of why couples therapy isn't just individual therapy times two. This might be of interest to you if you're an individual therapist thinking of moving to couples therapy, and also if you're a couples therapist really just wanting to be reminded of what are the differences and why it's really important to be aware of those differences. So in the last video, we were starting to explore the differences, how those therapies working with an individual versus working with a couple are different. And we were looking at that individual therapy goes into the intrapersonal, what's going on inside the client, and the couples therapy, we're talking about the interpersonal, what's going on within the couple, in the relationship, in the interpersonal dynamics of the relationship. It sounds simple to describe it that way, but in this video, I'll talk a little bit more about what that looks like, how you might consider that, particularly in working with couples. There can be a viewpoint out there that people really should have individual therapy done before they come to couples therapy. And I don't agree with that. If people have done that, then great, that's only going to help. But the truth of the matter is that a lot of people who come into couples therapy may never have considered individual therapy. Often they will not see that they have an issue, really, that the issue is just coming up in relationship. So, they haven't considered that they may want to go to personal therapy. And for other people, there still can be a huge stigma around going to individual therapy. I would often still see that, someone coming into the therapy room and saying, I never thought I'd have to come to a place like this. So that still is very common. And what I have seen is that really good, productive, helpful work can happen in the couples therapy without ever having someone go to individual therapy. And I have had people report back to me that the work that they did in couples therapy really brought a different dimension to them. So for those who had done both individual and couples, that couples therapy really brings something that individual therapy can't. And I'll explain a bit about that at the moment. And that's not pitting them against each other with regards to one being better than the other, not at all. But what comes up in couples therapy often won't come into the room in individual therapy, or may come in more of a biased way, which I'll explain about. If you are a couples therapist watching this, as I say, just if you are thinking about sending one or the other of your couples clients to individual therapy, just wonder about that and wonder, is that work that can be done within the couples system? It can be incredibly powerful to do some of that work. That might be an aspect of it might be focused on the individual, but actually to do it within the couple system can be incredibly powerful, particularly being witnessed by their partner, because that can bring a real understanding and empathy that they wouldn't have an insight into had the person gone to do the individual therapy themselves. So, again, you might be wondering about that, but why would something be coming up in the couples therapy that's not coming up in the individual therapy? And the thing that happens is that the difficulty is highlighted by the couple system. An example to consider this is that you might have, say Tom and Luke in a relationship. Tom, before they met, Tom is someone personality-wise who's more outgoing, more gregarious, likes to go out, likes to meet friends. And that's him, that's his life, that's his personality. It's not a problem, it's not an issue. Luke is quieter, Luke is more introverted. Luke likes nothing more than, sitting at home, having a quiet, cozy evening in with a glass of wine and a movie. So, and for Tom, that's really okay for him. That's not a problem. Tom and Luke meet. There's a spark. They really get to really like and love each other. Luke is attracted by, Tom's gregariousness, his outgoingness, and Tom finds Luke a beautiful balance with regards to his more quietness. And, you have a couple that come together and can match really well. Then as they go along in a couple, the weekend comes and Tom is, let's go out, let's go out and meet friends. Luke, I'd prefer not to. And that's the work of couples therapy, which basically it's about difference and how the couple figure out their differences. And so I sometimes describe it like this. Difference, there can be benign differences. You like Chinese food, I like Italian food. I don't, it doesn't hurt me that you like Italian food. Whereas with differences like this, like how much time we spend together versus apart, are we meeting others, are we just staying together? Those differences can bring up feelings of abandonment, of not caring, of not being tended to well in the relationship. So those differences can become quite problematic in the relationship. And in couples therapy, our work isn't to give them a solution to the difference. So our work wouldn't be to figure out, well, look, why don't you do one weekend going out, one weekend staying in? That's not our purpose in couples therapy. Our purpose is to help the couple explore how they are interacting with each other around their differences. So that's the process approach. And the process approach is, how do the couple navigate their differences? There's a sentence I've come across, which I come back to again and again, which is, the problem is the way the couple tried to solve it. So do I have a tendency to people please and put you first and deny myself? Am I of a personality where I'm quite a strong personality and I say, look, it will do you good to go out. It will do you good to go out and meet friends and do that with me. What's wrong? You're a bit too quiet. Why don't you come out? So do I do it in a way that actually ends up that I feel like I'm right and you're in the wrong? That's really common in couples therapy. So that is the work. So that's the focus, which obviously doesn't come into individual therapy, because in individual therapy, this issue isn't an individual issue, but it's an issue when they come into relationship. One of the things, again, to watch out for and to be careful for is if we imagine with this imagined couple, Tom and Luke, that Tom was going to his therapy and he was saying, something, Luke doesn't care about me so much anymore. He doesn't want to do things with me anymore. And as an individual therapist, if you take that at face value, what you might be doing is exploring the impact that has on Tom. How is he seeing that, but you're not seeing the actual interpersonal dynamics or Luke's perspective coming into that. So you're missing something quite fundamental in individual therapy that actually, looking at and working with a couple's system, you will understand a lot better. There's a quote from Salvador Minuchin. Salvador Minuchin would have been Esther Perel's mentor. And he is definitely probably my most influential person who's developed a methodology for working with couples. And he also worked with families. And the quote is, "The formation of a couple is an act of alchemy in which two individuals attempt to merge their lives without giving up their individuality. Accommodation allows them to become one, and boundary making enables them to remain two. Few things in life are more difficult to get right." And that is the absolute truth. And the other methodology, the other approach that I have found really makes sense with regards to working with couples is the differentiation-based approach, which again is that balance between how much can I hold on to myself while being in relationship, and also take you into consideration without losing myself. And that's the exploration that we're doing in couples therapy. So as I say, working with difference is really what we're really curious about, and how a couple navigate that difference. I have found that to be the best way. I've tried different ways and different methodologies, but a lot of the methodologies have a more outcome approach, so that you're trying to get the couple to some way of interacting or some way of talking. But actually, what I have found is that working on the process that gets them there will then untangle them to be able to get to that better communication, better expression, better closeness, better intimacy. So that just gives you, an overview of some of the differences. And as a therapist, the working with couples does feel really different than working with individuals. And there's two sides to that. I had a webinar before that I called the agony and the ecstasy. And the ecstasy is the level of energy that comes into the room. It means that this work is never dull. It's really interesting. It's really enlivening. It's really engaging. And the outcomes of it have a very direct impact on a relationship and on a family. So the level of fulfillment in couples work is very palpable. And as I say, it having the three in the room as well brings a level of energy that can bring a lot of humor, a lot of connection. So I really love the energy of couples work. So that's the really positive side. The other side is it can be really, really challenging. Often, unfortunately, couples can come into couples therapy after having issues over a very long period of time. So they can come in with the high levels of resentment, of anger, of frustration, of resignation. So you're holding a lot of very strong emotions in the couples therapy room. And the big challenge really in couples therapy, or for the couples therapist, is supporting a couple to shift their lens from the problem is with my partner to a curiosity about the couple's system and what they can be aware of within themselves in this system. So, and I say this really strongly, I don't work from a blame lens. Couples therapists should not be working from a blame lens or from a right or wrong. And everyone knows that, but people can unconsciously do it. There's the person who's not being emotional enough. There's the person who's shouting. And it's very easy to have them, go onto the hot seat as the problem partner. So as couples therapists, it's also always really important to be mindful of that. That it's not a sense of there's one person causing more of the problem. They may be, that might be the truth if you were to take it from a certain lens, a more judgmental lens. But that's not where we work from. We work from, how does this system make sense? What can we understand about the co-created system? There are commonalities as well, or a lot of crossover commonalities between individual and couples work. So the building of the working alliance and building a relationship with the couple, which each partner within the couple, is really important. Without that, therapy won't happen. So there's definitely a strong crossover there. the work of attunement, of understanding, of mirroring, of congruence. They are all strongly there as well in couples therapy. But in couples, you are doing that with two different people. And where those two different people may have completely different perspectives and perspectives that are at odds with each other as to what's happening in the relationship. And that is a real skill as a couples therapist, to hold each person in that position of feeling met and understood by the couples therapist, each of them, even when they're coming from two very different places. So they're the similarities. Some of the differences are the couples therapy exposes blind spots that will not come up in individual therapy. So I am in individual therapy are extremely unlikely to be able to tell you about how I am a difficult partner. You know, most people tend to come in, understandably, you know, saying, I've tried everything, I've done everything. It's just my partner needs to change. Whereas the interactions that we see live in the couples therapy space really helps expose those blind spots, or maybe another word is to bring awareness to them so that they can be worked on. In couples therapy, you are challenging more. You're having to hold those boundaries very firm with regards to behavior in the room, respect of each other, you know, so, and also you're challenging more with regards to unhelpful behaviors. Now, it's not challenging in an aggressive way, but, you know, challenging with regards to where you see people really working against themselves and they may not be in a position of seeing that as yet themselves. And you're keeping the focus of the relationship being the client. That obviously is different from individual therapy. And you're, you know, in what I suppose what is different is that you're also keeping an eye on two people. One might be talking, you might be keeping an eye on the reaction to the others. And ultimately what you're working towards within couples therapy is that your role will be to observe them doing the interactions rather than them talking to you. So again, so that's very different than in individual therapy, where you're there as an observer of a process of two people in the relationship. So I think that's probably a good overview of the differences and similarities between couples and individual therapy. And again, coming back to that importance of knowing that couples therapy isn't individual therapy times two. If you're interested in knowing more about couples therapy and doing some additional training and looking into webinars, the Institute of Couples Therapy is dedicated to providing various levels of training. So from an introduction to couples therapy to a certificate in couples therapy and to a postgraduate diploma as well in couples therapy. So if you want any more information about that, go on to the Institute of Couples Therapy website or their Instagram page. And there's a lot of information there. And a lot of we are really dedicated to professional, good quality training. So if that's what you're looking for, please have a look and see if there's something of interest for you there. Thank you.